It's been 52 years since the birth of the 5 Series lineage, and now we have the 8th generation model finally here in India. Now honestly, it's 2024. It's been a while since the 8th generation 5 Series has been launched in the global market. So why has it taken that long? Well, for that, you need to move to the side and see just how big this car has become, because you see, this is now the 5 Series long wheelbase, or LWB. That makes it the 3rd long wheelbase model from BMW India after the 7 Series and the 3 Series Gran Limousine. Now the i5, they opened bookings for it a little while back in the Indian market, but this is the one with the internal combustion engine under that hood and a really long wheelbase, which means that the space behind is going to be really good. Something that will now make the 5 Series take on the India spec Mercedes-Benz E-Class, which also is presented to us in a long wheelbase format. But before we talk about those numbers, let's first talk about the new design, because that seems to be always a controversial bit with BMW, right? Gladly, however, they have retained the traditional shape for the kidney grills somewhat, but it doesn't look as in your face as it did with the 7 Series or the i7. It's also got this contrasting effect on this particular car, and if you were to look at it closely, it's also got a transparent lining. That's essentially for the lighting. So if you want to bling it up a little bit, you want to illuminate that grille, you can do that. Now the other design bit that I really like, which I don't think is too bling but really sporty, is this little dimple that you get on the bonnet. This is where the BMW roundel sits. It will remind you of the BMW M3. So that, I think, is a very nice design detail. Moving back to the grille, these panels here, they will open or shut depending on when the engine needs cooling or when the car needs better aerodynamic efficiency. Speaking of which, the overall aerodynamic efficiency of the front end has improved by a big margin, and that's because of the new chiseled look that you see in the front. Now the headlights, the shape of it, that was received with quite a bit of polarized opinion, is what I believe on the internet, but let me know what do you think. To me, here in the flesh, it actually doesn't look that bad. You can just take one glance at this car and you know it's a 5 Series. So it still has a lot of those elements, especially that 4-eye look that they like with the face, that is retained with these LED headlamps. So you don't get laser on this, you get these LEDs. It's got that nice blue highlighting right beneath it. The DRLs, however, they have changed shape. You have these almost vertical DRLs that you get with this, but this is a new design philosophy that we've seen. Everything starting from the X1 has this, right? So that has been carried forward even to the 5 Series. Moving lower down into the bumpers, you see further chiseled or sharp surfaces. Everything is nice and angular, and that shape of the bumper should again tell you it belongs to the 5 Series. So overall, I think the front end looks really good. Not a big fan of this color. It's got a slight bit of that pearlescent tinge to it, but I've seen the car in black and in white as well, and I think it just looks stunning in both those color combinations. How it looks in the typical range of BMW blues, that is something that I really want to see. Now when you move to the side, you again see that satin finish continuing here on the window line. You'll see that all around. All of that looks quite nice, but here on the wing mirror, I think it looks a bit much, especially with that little side camera. I'm not a big fan of that. Overall, the finish looks nice though. You also get this 5 lettering here in the Hofmeister kink. You see the kink right here, and in that panel you see the 5. Now this is not illuminated like the grille. This one, however, is done up in white, and it's done up in a material that reflects quite nicely when light falls on it. So hopefully that should add to a little bit of the bling. Now if I were to just open the front door, you'll see that the 5 lettering is missing on the B pillar, whereas on the global spec models you will see that. So essentially, from the B pillar on is where this car differentiates itself from the global models. This is where the long wheelbase of the car comes into play. But like I said, we'll come to the numbers in a bit. Moving to the back, you see the badging right here. This says the 530 Li, but you will see another small change right here. The 5 is slightly bigger, the 30 Li is smaller. So within the same nomenclature, within the same kind of badging, they are now telling you very loud and clear, this is the 5 Series and this is going to be the variant. However, the 30 Li is pointing towards a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, but we'll come to that in a bit. Power tailgate is what you get. It hides beneath it a 500-liter boot space. And beneath that floor is going to be your space saver wheel. So it's not really going to intrude into your boot space. All the 500 litre is completely usable. And to me, it looks quite nice and sizable. Even the loading lip doesn't seem too high. So putting all your luggage in shouldn't be a problem at all. Now, in terms of the tail lights, a very sleek looking design. This is a design philosophy that we've been seeing on other BMW cars as well. So again, a page out of the 7 Series or the i7 design that you see here with the new 5. Now on the side, you're going to see 18-inch wheels. Now these aren't the aero wheels that you saw on the i5. Those are going to be more aerodynamically efficient. But if you want something like that, you can always say please to BMW, and BMW would be pleased to give you that at an additional cost. You also see nice black skirts, which adds to that sporty appeal of the vehicle. I think it looks quite nice, especially when you look at it from the side. So despite this being a long wheelbase vehicle, it still looks pretty proportionate. The only thing that probably you will not like is the size or the diameter of those wheels. But like I said, you can always upsize them if you so need. The doors nice and big, and they almost open 90 degrees, so getting in and out of the car is not going to be a problem at all. But I've been avoiding those numbers. Let us now talk those numbers. So since I'm bad with numbers, sorry, I'm going to read them out to you. So the car is now almost 5.2 meters long. The length has been increased by 212 millimeters. That's quite a bit. Then in terms of the width, 32 millimeters longer to a total of 1900 millimeters. Even the height has gone up by a good 41 millimeters. But the name says it's a long wheelbase, right? So let's talk about the wheelbase. It's now 130 millimeters longer than the outgoing car to a total of 3105 millimeters. So unlike me, those of you who are good with numbers should be able to immediately point out it's 26 millimeters longer than the current E-Class long wheelbase. In fact, we hear that this will be a longer wheelbase car than even the new E-Class that is coming into India. That will have 3094 millimeters of wheelbase. You heard that first on OVERDRIVE, whereas this one has 3105, so still 11 millimeters longer. Now, in terms of the rear seat, well, nice, comfortable place to be in. Superb legroom, decent amount of headroom. Foot space is quite good too. You don't get seat pockets for storing items. What you do get, however, is this little panel right here that will give you a new mounting option, a proprietary mounting option from BMW, which will allow you to put maybe parcel trays or maybe your coat hangers, etc. So you can do that on the other side. You also get a USB-C port on both the ends. You do get, however, a center armrest, which gets you a little bit of storage space right here, a wireless charging, which will take plus size phones, and should you press that button right here, it reveals 2 cup holders. So this is quite nicely done, and I think differently done than even the global spec 5 series. So that's a good touch. Overall, the seat space is quite good. You get Bose and Wilkins audio with a nice metal mesh on top of it. The speakers are illuminated as well. On the side of it, you will see these B-pillar mounted AC vents. You get 2 AC vents in the center. This is a proper 4-zone climate control as well. And one additional bit is you can also choose the temperature that you want at your feet separately. So that's another nice feature to have, where you want some cool air on your body but some warm air on your feet, maybe on rainy days. So that's the other additional bit. Now, in terms of the seating, the contouring is quite nice. Now to go nitpicking. You can't access the boot from here. I know not many people do that, so that's something that's okay. But you do not have a split seat functionality where you can drop the seats in a split manner or drop the seats at all. You cannot do that with the new 5 Series. So that is, well, a bit of a missed opportunity, I think. Also, with the center armrest, you have to be mindful. You have to make sure that you close the cup holders back in, because if you don't, and if you just end up doing this, you might just break this unit. So you have to be mindful of that. And the reclining function of the seats has also been taken out. So it's not just the drop functionality, but even the recline functionality compared to the global one is taken out. They've used that additional space to give you better contouring so that you nicely sink into these seats, use these pillows, and be in the kind of comfort that you probably never expected with a 5 Series. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. Let's now talk about the front. The seat that usually matters the most on the 5, but this time, supposedly, it's not a driver's car. It's all about the rear seat, right? But the moment you get into the cabin, you realize ingress and egress is just as easy for a low riding sedan like this. And once you're inside, you also realize that the cabin is almost similar to what you've seen on the 7 Series or the i7 that was standing on the same showroom floors. What I mean by that is you get these nice curved displays for the infotainment and the instrumentation, and you also get these lovely lighting elements in this nice crystal-like look that they've given to the glass. So most of this is interactive as well. What that means is that this will not only show you the ambient color that you've chosen for the lighting, it will also, for example, when you switch on the hazard lights, it will all glow red. When some of the ADAS functionality is at play and it wants to maybe grab your attention, again the lights are going to change color. So all these kind of things make the cabin feel a lot more interactive, a lot more welcoming, a lot more connected to the driver. Now in terms of the upholstery, you get this vegan leather or art leather, and BMW says this is the first time that the entire cabin is done up in the vegan leather. So if you are a vegan, well, you're going to be at peace in this cabin. Even the trimming on the steering wheel is all vegan leather, which I think is a very good thing for people who want to feel more responsible towards these kind of things. Now the crystal effect also continues on this rotary selector right here, or even the new gear selector. Again, very much like the 7 Series or the i7, and the ambient lighting continues into the front cup holders as well as this large pad that you see here. Now this is essentially going to be a wireless charging pad, but the wireless charging is going to happen only on one side, and that's the only side that is also cooled for the pad. Now in terms of more storage spaces, you get a small cubby hole right here. It's lit. You also get a 12-volt charging socket right here. You also get 2 USB-C ports at the front. You also get the crystal effect controllers that I talked about, and there is a decently sized glove compartment, good enough for your gloves and small documentation. Now in terms of the infotainment, we will not deep dive into that for limited time, but this is essentially running the same OS or the same 8.5 version of the OS that you saw with the i7 or the 7 Series. So the functionality more or less remains the same. We will do a deep dive with it, however, when we do actually take the car for a long test drive.